Oh my god! Oh my god! It's an eclipse! It's the end of the world! Welcome to the Super Pilotish channel. My name is Graham Wilson, and today, in my nice safe basement, I'll be talking to you about the eclipse. Ooh, it's pretty interesting. And yeah, we're gonna have an eclipse today, and I'll be doing that right now. Okay. Yeah, so I'm in Windsor, Ontario, and around here we're going to be catching a full eclipse today. And so I was kind of thinking, how would that? I'm not flying or anything today, but how would that affect aviation? So us pilots, we like to check the weather all the time and see what's going on. So I thought, well, yeah, I'll do a little show about that. And so maybe if you're flying in another couple hours or something like that, don't sweat it. Bottom line is, don't worry about it. It's no big deal. I know people that don't, people that are like astronomers and stuff. What do you mean it's not a big deal? We only get an eclipse like this every once in a while. Yeah, but for pilots, it's just kind of like, hey, I think most of them will be like, that's it, or oh, it's a little dark. Oh, hey, Vanessa, welcome to the show. So I've never actually flown anywhere. Haven't really ever seen an eclipse ever in my lifetime. But from the comfort of my armchair, I will be armchair quarterbacking what I think might happen. Bottom line is, nobody seems to be, no one seems to be very concerned about this in the aviation industry. I looked at the first thing you would do if there's anything weird, they that's unusual or that maybe pilots have to kind of, oh, you should know about this. They close this runway or something like that. It would be in a statement that they put out that's called a NOTAM. It used to be called Notice to Airmen, but then they changed that to be more politically correct. So I don't know what it's called now. But anyways, it's a notice that goes out to pilots. And so I was looking, okay, well, for my Windsor Airport here, any notifications, like watch out for darkness or something like that. And really, there was only, there was a notification put out there, and it said, due to the solar eclipse, I'm paraphrasing here. Exact, I'm not going exact, so don't plan your flying around what I'm saying here. But it's basically like, yeah, due to the eclipse, you'll have to plan accordingly for your flight operations. That's about it. So and I was thinking, you'd think it would be a little bit more, like, I mean, than that, because I know you're not supposed to look directly at it because you can burn your eyeballs out. I think it's in my mind, it's kind of like you're looking, if you look directly at the sun for 2 minutes, like you're going to hurt your eyes, but it's misleading because there's the moon there in the front. So your pupils could be all dilated like this, and you're just like slamming a bunch of extra solar radiation at the back of your eye. That's the way I think of it. And actually, I just got my eyes checked this morning, so I'm going to be getting some new glasses and stuff. And yeah, anyways, thought I'd mention that. So if you see me with some new specs in a few days or a few weeks, don't be surprised. Just like don't be surprised with the eclipse. Nothing to worry about. So and then I started thinking about it, like I usually do. If the Transport Canada, or sorry, the good people at Nav Canada are not really too worried about this, I was like, well, what do they say with the FAA over in the States? So I looked out there for Detroit. It's like they're not even mentioning it at all in Detroit. And then there was a line. They said that Nav Canada, they said that the eclipse would be going in a line basically from the Cleveland airport up to the Buffalo airport and then off that way. So I looked at the Cleveland airport. I didn't see any NOTAMs out for them, or I thought so. I checked the long range forecast for their weather, and they just say, yeah, sky clear. Big deal. They didn't even mention the eclipse. So, oh, hey, Harold, welcome to the show. So I'm thinking that it might be a great big nothing burger, Harold cheeseburger, because, and this is my thinking, and I'll use my little whiteboard and the finest artistry that you can see to explain my thinking on this. So yeah, whenever it comes to flying, you should always kind of consider things in order. So like number one is safety, of course. And then after that, is it legal? And then after that, am I going to lose my job? So there's a crass way of putting that, but we'll just say safety, legality, and employment. So okay, so here we go. That's what the sun looks like when it's up in the sky. And then okay, we got that. Looks like a sun. And then, so let's just say we got our sun, and ooh, it's eclipse time. So now we got the moon is in front of it. Oh yeah, and then yeah, so they were saying that there was a line between, was it between Cleveland and Buffalo, and then you only had to worry about anything 100 nautical miles each side of that line. So where I am here in Windsor, it's within that, so we should be getting it a little bit darker. But yeah, they said it could be nighttime or twilight conditions. Plan accordingly. There we go. It looks like an eyeball, doesn't it? But there we go. There's our there's my total eclipse. And then so let's just say we got the ground down here, and I got my airplane, and here I am flying in my airplane. That is the standard airplane design for most flight instructors because we're such great artists. There we go. We got our airplane. It's flying along underneath our great eclipse. So, if that's casting a shadow, it'll cast a shadow something like this. All right. So far, the artistry is looking great. There's your shadow. So now, I can see how, like, if you're on the ground, let's draw a pilot on the ground. He's too afraid to go flying. There we go. There's our pilot on the ground. So where the pilot is, where he's seeing or where she's seeing, it's like, yeah, you can kind of see off here. Now they said it was a 100-mile line from the main part of where it's going. So 100 nautical miles that way, 100 nautical miles that way. Well, this guy would have to be pretty tall to see 100 nautical miles. I don't know. On the ground, how far can you see? Maybe I don't know. If it's really flat, maybe, I don't know, 5 miles or something like that. So where from the observer on the ground is like, wow, this is totally dark. Looking both ways. That's incredibly dark all over here. It's basically nighttime. How can you fly in that? But depending on what your altitude is up in your airplane, I mean, if you're way up in, like 30,000 feet up in a jet or something like that, or even if you're a couple thousand feet up in a little airplane, well, you'll still be able to see, 100 nautical miles over here if it's clear, or, even further if you're way up there. So you wouldn't be in your airplane. It might be kind of dark in your cockpit, but you'd look out here and you would see all these sun's rays. Ooh, look at this. Okay, this is looking more and more like spaghetti. Okay, there's all the sun's rays. You might even see a mountain over here or something like that. So, hey, it's dark in my airplane, but look, there's a mountain. I better not hit that. So, yeah, in the plane, it's not going to be really all that dark because you're going to see all the light that's out here on the horizon. Whereas on the ground, you're going to be kind of, this looks pretty dark here. And it only lasts for a couple minutes. Hey, Fire Captain 202, welcome to the show, brother. Nice to see you back. Okay, yeah, so that's my thinking there is on the ground, we're going to think, oh, it's really dark here. Unless you're way off like me, 100 nautical miles off from Cleveland. And then, it might be kind of dark over this way, but where's me? There's me. There's my hat. Okay, and then so I'm looking, hey, it's kind of bright over here to the north. It's kind of dark down here to the south. Yeah, so we'll probably get the twilight that they're talking about on the reports. Not a big deal. And then part of that too is that if you are flying your airplane, maybe you're coming down here and you're going to land next to this pilot. It could be like it's nighttime. So airplanes land at night all the time, and especially like if you're flying your pilot on the big jet or smaller airplanes and stuff like that. Like people are trained to fly at night, so the guys at the control tower or the girl whoever's manning the radio will be like, "Oh, it's dark. Yeah, let's throw on some runway lights just for safety." That's okay. And then the pilots, if you're a pilot, you can always request to have runway lights put on no matter what. Maybe it's getting a little bit dark, or maybe the visibility isn't so great. And you can ask the tower, hey, can you turn up the visibility, or can you turn up the lights a little bit? And then poof, they can adjust the how bright the lights are. or the intensity of the lights, as they like to call them. So there's lots of things out there in aviation that are that can take care of if it gets dark, and it won't even really be dark depending on where your perspective is. So I think that's probably why, like the our navigation and meteorology people between the states and Canada really didn't make any warnings or anything, because I guess it's not going to be that bad. If it is going to be bad, you will definitely get a warning. It's like, say something for one of the worst things you can get is volcanic ash. So remember, a few years ago there was a volcano that was blowing up out in Iceland, and it was putting ashes all the way over to Europe. That canceled everything. Like, it was like volcanic ash. Your engine doesn't last very long in that. So yeah, so I mean, something like that, everyone in the whole world knows about it. Like, they'll put that, like, here I am in Windsor. I check it, the weather, and it'll say, "Don't fly to Iceland." Like, oh, okay. So, like, it's really not that big of a deal for all that. Sorry to let you down, but you never know. Okay, so as far as the safety, totally safe flying with your Eclipse, and of course the pilots know, don't stare directly at it. Everyone knows that. Don't stare at the Eclipse unless you got the cool glasses. I don't plan on looking at it today. Like, I plan on looking out the window and going, that's funny. It looks a little cloudy. But what I am interested in, for the just because I like birds, because they like to fly too. I've heard that the birds get a little messed up when it gets dark like that. So you could hear, like, songbirds possibly thinking, "Oh, it's time to go to bed," and they start chirping. Robins get all pissed off when the sun goes down. They get that rah, 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 rah. That kind of that's exactly what they sound like. Rah, 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 rah. And that's what the robins sound like. And then usually I always find that the cardinals are the first ones to wake up in the morning around here. So they're singing quite nicely. So I'm going to be listening for that, and I don't know, maybe digging out my garden or something like that. I did start some tomato seeds the other day too. Okay, so enough about that now. Legally, okay, we got the safety. Now, what's the legal aspect of this? So I did have a question. That in Canada, if you're going to be flying at night, you need a special night rating to fly at night. It doesn't apply to people in the United States. For pilots over there, they don't need that special classification on their license, but here we do. So what happens if it gets dark and because of an eclipse, are you still legal to fly? And the answer to that is yes, because the way that the laws or the rules are defined here in Canada is that the official daytime and official nighttime, where you have to have extra training to fly at night and special classification on your, you need that special rating on your license. That's strictly determined by the center of the sun's disk in relationship to the horizon. That's it. So, I mean, you can, like, I've flown around during the daytime where it's really, really overcast, and maybe a really thick layer of overcast, and the sun's just starting to kind of go down. And it could be pretty much nighttime. You would think, like, this is official daytime, like cars are driving around with their headlights on and stuff. And it's like, it's officially daytime. So and it's really not that much different landing at night than during the daytime in your little airplane. And then, like I said before, the guys with the flying the big jets, and the girls flying the medium jets, or whoever's flying whatever jets, yeah, they're totally trained for all that kind of stuff. So that's not a big deal. Okay, so we took care of the safety, no problem. We took care of the legality, no problem. Now, your job. What does your job have to do with this? I think it's a great excuse to call in sick. Yeah. So actually, I just kind of heard that when I was when I was going to get my eyes checked this morning at the optometrist. On the way there, I was listening on the radio, and someone called in to the DJs it was over at on a station from Detroit. I was listening to it on the radio, and they were saying that, like, some guy texted them or called them. Was it? Yeah, I think they got a text at the radio station that all the guys at the shop, they called in sick because they thought that the Eclipse was going to mess around with the magnetism of the earth, and then that would summon the aliens to come. And so they all called in sick. So, you know, that's very creative. So that does have to do with your job and, safety first. You don't want to be going to unsafe workplace, and you have the right to refuse unsafe work, even if it's aliens coming, I guess. But my real suspicion on that one is probably that the Detroit Tigers had their opening game on Friday, last Friday, and I think these guys probably had one heck of a weekend. So on Monday, I think that's the real reason why they called in sick. I know, I've worked in machine shops. It happens. So, anyways, but I mean, call in sick for the afternoon shift. Just you worried about the aliens and give it a shot. See what your boss thinks. But anyways, that's so yeah, nothing to worry about at all with these eclipses. It won't affect the scheduling on anybody's airplanes or anything like that. The only thing is just don't look directly at it, and you're cool. So yeah, there you go. Pretty boring. Not very exciting. Like I would get so many more clicks if I just lied and said like, yeah, all the planes are gonna crash. The avionics are gonna screw up. It's like, no, they don't. It's a little bit darker out, and the planes are used to being in the dark anyways. So yeah, that is about it. So okay. Yeah, we'll see if there's any little questions or anything like that. And let's see. Oh, just a few people in the chat here today, but I do appreciate everyone that comes into the chat. It's makes things nice. Okay, what do we got here? Oh, all right. So Vanessa first saw a total eclipse at the end of the 60s. Dad got a special glass to allow us to view it through. Yeah, I was it 1979? I remember I was in grade school and they said, "Oh, there's an eclipse today." And there was no fear mongering or anything like that about it. It was just like there's like scientific kids magazines, and they were saying, "Oh, hey kids, get this and this," and you can safely look at the eclipse. Like there was no like oh, we're all gonna die, anything weird like that. It was just like, "Hey kids, let's look at an eclipse." And then that day we were at school, and they drew all the blinds in the classrooms, so that no kids could be daydreaming like me, looking out the window, hating my teacher, hating school, looking out the window. Oh, they drew the blinds. Okay. So yeah, and as it turned out, it was overcast that day anyways. Nobody saw anything, and I guess there was an eclipse on the other side of the clouds or something. So I was really quite let down by that. So I don't know. We'll see what happens here today. And I will not look directly at it, and I will not be afraid. So here we go. Okay, here we go. Harold's in the midst of a mad eclipse glasses hunt. Yeah, I don't know what you could do. Like, I think you could probably, don't quote me on this one, do a Google search first, but I would think if you got like welding, if you got a welding helmet or welding glasses or something like that, that should be strong enough to look at the sun for a little while. I mean, you're staring at welding, so. And didn't they use that to look at like nuclear explosions and stuff? So Google it first. Don't go by the armchair quarterback on that one. But there's a thought for you anyways, Harold. Go ahead to the welding supply store and see what you can do. What else we got here? Okay, here we go. Oh, Harold found some. Good news. Good news. Excellent. Excellent. And the roar of the Tigers in 2024. Yeah, we'll see how the Tigers do. The Tigers are my team, even though I'm Canadian. My team is the Tigers because it's just right over there across the river. So it's kind of weird here in Windsor because we're right on the border with the United States. So half the people here, I'd say most of the people here that grew up here anyways, they're all Tigers fans. And then the ones that might be imported from another part of the country, they're probably like Toronto Blue Jays fans for baseball. And yeah, so and it's kind of split that way between like the Red Wings and the Toronto Maple Leafs. stuff like that. Football, I don't know. As far as NFL football, I used to be a Minnesota Vikings fan when I was a kid because I didn't know anything about football, and I knew a guy at school, and he got free tickets through his dad's work. So the first football game I saw was in the Pontiac Silverdome, and it was the Minnesota Vikings versus the Lions, and they liked the Vikings. So I was like, okay, I'll like the Vikings too. But I had no reason to do that, so I'm actually kind of turning into more of a Lions fan as I get older. There's some, but I don't really kind of watch sports anyways. But the Lions always lose. Yeah, whatever. I'll be a Lions fan. We'll just say that. And, it'll be even. I always like a good underdog story. So if the Lions go all the way, that'd be cool. That'd be pretty cool. So yeah, that is about it. I think. Yeah, that's about it. Today is Monday, so I'm glad I got to talk about something today. Feel free to make any comments or anything below if you want me to talk about something in particular. I do take suggestions. I take requests, and yeah, so that's about it. I will be back on Wednesday because I do this Monday, Wednesday, Friday at noon Eastern, and we'll just kind of shut her down. So thank you for